Good morning, gorgeous. Yes, you. I'm really glad you're here with me today. However, you found your way into this moment, whether you're moving through your morning, sitting in your car for a few extra minutes, or giving yourself a little space to just breathe, I want you to feel this. You are not here by accident, ladies. And I don't take it lightly that you keep choosing to spend this time with me. I'm loving this. I don't want you to just be a bystander. I want you engaged, sis. Because these conversations, they ask something of you. They ask you to slow down, to listen a little deeper, to be honest with yourself in ways that are not always comfortable, but they're necessary. So just take a breath for a second. Let your shoulders drop. Let everything settle. Because this conversation today, it's going to meet you where you are and gently move you forward. No, I'm not going to push or shove you. I'm just going to gently move you forward. So let's get to it. Today's episode is titled, You Know Better, Now Move Better. There is a kind of knowing that comes with time. Not the kind you read about, not the kind someone teaches you, the kind you earn. The kind that comes from living, from going through things, from sitting in moments you didn't expect, and learning something about yourself on the other side of it. And if you are in this season of your life, you understand exactly what I mean. You don't need everything explained anymore. You can feel when something is right. You can feel when something is off. You can sense when something is aligned and when it isn't. And that is discernment. That is growth. That is what happens when you stop ignoring yourself, ladies. But here is where this gets real. Just because you know better does not mean you are moving better. And that gap, that space between what you know and how you move, that is where frustration lives. That is where delay lives. That is where you start feeling like something is off, even when everything around you looks fine. Because deep down, you already decided. You already felt it. You already recognized it. But your actions haven't caught up yet. And I want you to bring something into this conversation that shifts how you see that. Because sometimes we think that moving forward means having everything figured out, that it means clarity on every step, that it means certainty about every outcome. But that is not how this works, ladies. Here is a verse that has a way of grounding you when you start overthinking your next move. Jeremiah 29:11 says, For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Let that sit with you for a second. Not your plans, His. Not your full understanding, His knowing. Because sometimes the reason you hesitate to move, even when you know better, is because you are trying to see the whole path before you take the next step. You want confirmation, you want reassurance, you want to feel like everything is going to line up the way you expect it to. But growth does not work that way, ladies. Alignment doesn't work that way. And faith doesn't work that way either. Faith is not about having the full plan laid out in front of you. It's not about knowing how everything is going to unfold. No, that's not how that works. It's about trusting what you've already been shown enough to take the next step. And that is where this connects. Because your discernment, that inner knowing you have now, That is not random. That is not you being difficult. That is not you being too sensitive. That is not you overthinking. That is guidance, ladies. But guidance only works if you follow it. There have been moments in my life when I knew something wasn't right. I felt it clearly. No confusion, no gray area, just a quiet, steady knowing. And instead of moving, I paused. I waited. I tried to make it make sense in a way that felt more comfortable. I tried to soften it. And every time I did that, I felt it. I felt that tightness, that internal tension, that feeling of being slightly off, even when everything around me was still moving. And I had to learn something the hard way. Delay does not create clarity, it creates distance from yourself. Because the longer you sit on what you already know, the easier it becomes to start negotiating with it, to question it, to explain it away, to talk yourself out of what was clear the first time. But here is what I need you to understand, sis y hermana. You didn't arrive at this level of knowing by accident. You lived for it. You learned from it. You grew into it, just like I did. All of it. So when you feel something now, it deserves to be honored, not delayed. Moving better does not mean moving fast. It means moving aligned. Sometimes that looks like making a decision without announcing it. Sometimes that looks like stepping back without explaining it. Sometimes that looks like not continuing something that no longer feels right, even if it used to. And I know that can feel uncomfortable because a part of you still wants things to feel complete, still wants things to feel understood, still wants everything to end in a way that feels clean and mutual. But not everything will. Nothing is perfect. And that does not mean you are wrong for moving. There is a quiet confidence that comes when you stop needing external confirmation, when you stop asking, is this okay? Should I be doing this? When you stop waiting for someone else to validate what you already know internally, that is when you start moving differently. That is when your actions begin to match your awareness. That is when the gap starts to close. And something shifts when that happens. You feel lighter, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer in conflict with yourself. You are no longer sitting in something your spirit has already outgrown. You are no longer forcing yourself to stay where you don't feel aligned. And you are no longer carrying the weight of decisions you've already made but didn't act on. You are moving. And that movement, ladies, even when it is quiet, creates momentum. So this week, I want you to think about this. Where in your life have you already received the clarity, but you are still waiting? Where have you already felt the shift, but you are still holding on? Where are you asking for another sign when you already have one? You don't need more information, ladies. You just need alignment. And alignment is not about having all the answers, because no one does. It is about trusting the direction and yourself, even when you cannot see the full outcome. Because if you believe that there is a plan for your life, if you believe that there is something greater guiding you, then you also have to believe that what you feel is part of that guidance. You are not being led into confusion. You are being led into clarity, And clarity requires movement. So today, I am not asking you to figure everything out. I am not asking you to make a big decision. I am asking you to honor what you already know in one area, in one moment, in one choice. Move a little differently today. Respond a little differently today. Trust yourself a little more today. Because the more you do that, the more natural it becomes. And before you know it, you are no longer hesitating in the same places. You are no longer stuck in the same patterns. You are no longer questioning what you already know. You are moving. And that is where change actually happens. Not in what you understand, but in how you show up. If today's episode resonated with you, leave a review and share it with another woman who's rising or someone in your life who needs this conversation. Follow the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And if you're listening on YouTube, like and subscribe so you don't miss what's next on Rosie, Rooted and Rising. Leave me a comment and let me know what part of this conversation spoke to you. Until next time, sis y hermana, stay rooted, stay blessed, and keep rising. New episodes every Monday morning.